Hey, Facebook, YouTube. Oops, let me get the other people. That'll be Instagram. Instagram doesn't want to go live. Let's see if TikTok wants to go to live. TikTok. I hit the live button on Instagram and it's not working. So that's interesting. Anyway, bear with me for just a moment as I set up my sharing because for some reason, Facebook has removed the option of sharing directly into groups, and so I have to do it manually. That means I have to wait for it to show up on my page so that I can then share it with my group. But anyway, I want to hop in real quick because I know I say this every time I leave and come back, but I've been gone for a minute. I've been kind of busy, so I moved. I've been traveling. There's been some things going on, and so I want to come back and share some kind of updates in life. Oh, wow, this is odd. So Facebook actually has it so that it's only shared to me. So let me change these privacies real quick. This should be shared in YouTube, Facebook, a couple of different places. I have put a link on Facebook. If there's anyone who would like to join me live and actually speak about this, I would absolutely love to do that. Um, there we go. This should be public now because most of you are probably not even seeing this. And for whatever reason, IG won't go live. IG refuses to go live. Um, But now let me share this. And it won't let me share. Hold on. Shifting from single. This is also much with the new technology. But hello there, TikTok. And I was hoping I'd be able to do something in IG as well because I've been talking to a lot of folks over at the IG community. And so I really want to talk about shifting, right? Because my whole premise is shift queens, right? I'm a shift queen. That means that I have mastered the art of the shift. Most of you have been along my journey as I've mastered the shift or navigated the shift from being a divorcee to newly divorced. I'm from being separated to newly divorced to being, y'all bear with me, I'm doing this manually, to being a woman who has leaned into her singleness, and also along the way really spoken about healing and what my healing journey has been like. And what that's allowed me to do is really to uh, in my transparency, help a lot of other people kind of navigate some of the nuances of the shift from being a divorcee, being separated, and navigating that world without shame, with empowering and basically, allowing yourself to be your best self. And so lately, I've been having conversations behind the scenes about what it's like to navigate and shift from not only the level of being a divorcee. I hope this posted all. Being a divorcee, right? And I can't say newly anymore because it's been almost 2 years since the divorce, but it's been 3.5 years since the separation. And so with that, I found myself kind of like, what is it that people really want to hear from me? And what I recognize is that women over 50 are getting divorced every day. Regardless of what the people in your life tell you should or should not be happening, with a woman of a particular age is happening. People are getting divorced. Me talking about people getting divorced is not making people get divorced. I understood that from the beginning. But what I do know, hey, Bonita, but what I do know is that there are a lot of people who are navigating this journey and are doing it without the level of support that either I had or that I allowed, right? Because when we talk about being in these shifts, you have to be in a position of allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to allow people to show up in your life how they should, or how they best can, and also knowledgeable enough to know who should and should not be in that world of yours. So with that being said, if you want to leave comments, I may not be able to see them through the live as I'm going on StreamYard, but please know that I'll go back to them. And if you want to be on it, just hit that button in my one of my last posts. But anyway. So let's talk about shifting from single. As I have been pretty transparent about my journey thus far. Now let's keep it real. I haven't told y'all everything because you don't really need to know everything. But what I have done is I've been pretty open about the journey thus far. And I'm in this new season. It looks like I'm frozen. I'm in this new season of really shifting from a place that I've been really comfortable in, which is the space of singleness. And for anyone who will ask, right, about navigating this place, one of the things that I did in my healing journey, right, because I don't care who you are, how you come from a divorce situation, there is likely to be something that you need to heal from. For me, again, I made no bones about it. Going through that space, I was the one who initiated the separation and divorce. We had been married. I actually left 2 days before our 25th anniversary. We had been together almost 30 years by that point. So it was a really difficult thing. We shared 4 children together. They were all adults at that time. Our youngest daughter was 17. And so there were a lot of things and factors that went into play as it related to me coming to terms with what it really looked like to do what I need to do for myself, to be my best self and to be my healthiest self. So I just reposted a video on TikTok and Instagram that I made a year ago today, where I was talking about the journey of navigating this space of divorcing and showing up somewhat unapologetic about it, because it's my life. And it's the life that I've lived. It's the life that I've created. It's the life that only belongs to me. So I get to make the decisions about what works for me. But what I found was that there were a lot of people who did not have anything to do with my life, who didn't even like me, who didn't even know me, who felt like they had a place to tell me what I should do. And one of the things that I know is the result of me doing the work to heal allowed me to put blinders and earmuffs to that. There was blinders and earmuffs to the inclinations of and the utterances of those outside of my life who were not a part of my life and the decision, and allowed me to focus more on the people that I was called to serve. And when I say called to serve, I say that a lot of people aren't talking in this space about being divorced over 50 and what that looks like to really start to introduce yourself to this version of yourself and navigate the healing spaces and navigate the hurt spaces and navigate the forgiveness spaces and navigate all of those things that you need to do to come out on the other side whole. With that being said, I did the work. I did the work for me. At the time, I was a licensed therapist. For those of you who've been following me, you know that this April 1st was the first time in 21 years that I opted not to renew my license as a therapist. I had a LCSW. It sounds weird to still say because I'm still navigating that. But as a licensed therapist, right? I was a licensed therapist. I was a certified coach. I was working with people and helping them through their transitions, through their healing, through their hurts, through all the things that they had been in. And I was coming out of a significantly dark place. And when I say a significantly dark place, I mean that I was severely depressed. I was very highly anxious, and I showed up every day with a smile on my face. I showed up in ways that other people had no idea. The people who lived with me barely knew, but they knew something was different, right? They knew something was different. So coming out of that marriage, which when it got to the point that there was so much misalignment, right? There was so much misalignment that it started to cause me damage. I knew that I had to choose me. And I did so unapologetically. But in choosing me, and because I did it unapologetically, I also gave myself permission to fight for the best version of me. fighting for the best version of me looked like going to therapy. It looked like getting a coach. It looked like allowing myself to be vulnerable. It looked like crying. It looked like working through shit I thought I had healed. It looked like doing the work. It looked like not giving up on myself. It looked like treating myself how I would treat a client of mine. I would never say some of the things I had said to myself to other people. And so I had to opt into not only how I thought about myself, but how I treated myself. With that, I have spent the last 3+ years invested in my healing. Now, when I was growing up, there were some things that I would hear about relationships, right? There were things that I would hear about what you should do to get over a man. Do y'all remember those things that they would say? The best way to get over a man is to get under another one. Y'all remember people saying stuff like that? They would say things like that. And I knew that for me, that was absolutely not the best thing to do. The absolute best thing for me to do was to lean into learning more about me, into doing my work, into forcing myself to contend with why I made some of the decisions that I had made that betrayed myself years ago. Years ago. Also, how to forgive the younger version, the 22-year-old version of me for making some of the decisions that I made, or the 25-year-old version, or the 30-something-year-old version when I stayed in a situation. Now, for those of you who are new, I say this all the time. I'm not here to villainize my ex-husband. For some reason, when you talk about leaving a relationship, men who have nothing to do with you automatically assume that you're on some male bashing type of ish. Now, I will say he wasn't perfect, but I also wasn't perfect. And I own my imperfections. That's it. Imperfectivities. I like that better though. I own that from the very beginning, right? From the very beginning. When I decided that accountability was going to be my portion, I gave myself permission to take my life in my own hands and do the work. So if y'all see me looking over here, I have 3 cameras going. Hey, TikTok, how y'all doing? It allowed me to do the work that was necessary so that I can pull back the layers and I can introduce myself to this version of me. I had to become familiar. I had to create the version of me who was single for the first time in her adult life. I've not been single since I was 22 years old. And so now I've been single since I was 50. I've been single since I was 50 years old, right? And as a 53, I'm 53, I'll be 54 in 6 weeks, right? So this has been a process. And this is where I want to remind you that people will say certain things about and to you in terms of it being too late, you being too old, you need to just settle. Honey, don't settle for nothing ever. I don't care what it is. Your best life may be the life that's before you, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years before you. You may be 60, you may be 70. I saw a video of a 79-year-old woman, somebody's mother who just got married, found the love of her life. Don't count yourself out and don't allow anybody else, especially somebody's dusty son, to count you out. So with that being said, I understood that even as a woman who was divorcing at 50, who was told by strangers on the internet that my best years was behind me, that I should have just stayed with that man, that I should have just count my losses, right? I should have just given up because there ain't nobody gonna want me at my big age. When I tell you the amount of vulnerability and the amount of strength that it takes to share your life on the internet, it's not for the weak. It's not for the faint of heart. And so I say to people, not everybody has to do this, but one of the reasons that I show up is because I'm built for this. And part of being built for this is I allow you all on the journey with me. Now, here's your caveat. I ain't gonna tell you all my business because you don't need to know all my business, but I'll tell you a little bit of my business, right? I'll tell you a little bit of my business. I'm in a season of shift right now. I'm in a season of shift. Now, keep in mind, I have protected my healing process. I protected my healing process, right, Bonita? Not for the week at all. I protected my healing process by being very intentional about who I allow in my space. This is something I suggest for all of my clients. You cannot heal in toxicity. You cannot heal in places that you are experiencing emotional abuse. You cannot heal in spots where you are second guessing yourself. And here's the thing I want you to recognize that some of you are attempting to heal in places with people who look like helpers who are not helpers. These people are leeches and they are manipulators. These are people who count on the worst version of you, right? The most unhealed version of you, so that they can get their kicks. So when I say you have to assess not only yourself and your own healing, but you also have to assess who's in your inner circle. And so I became very protective of my inner circle. So much so that I prayed to God. I said, God, send your people. Send your people. If I'm not supposed to be with these people, right? If I'm not supposed to be here. See, here's the thing I'm sure of. The blueprint that I have for healing is not a blueprint that's just for me. So I'm going to share with you my blueprint. I'm going to share with you how it was that I walked through this process and how I'm walking through this next shift. But bear with me as I give you a little bit of the backstory. There are people today who are counting on you to still be stuck. There are people on this day who are counting on you to still be unhealed. They want you broken. It's hard to manipulate a healed woman. And so I want you to really take a look at, do a deep dive, do an audit of your inner circle and determine who is there who may not need to be. When I started getting an indication, I see you, hallelujah. What was that, Johnny? When I started getting indication that there were people who were in my inner circle who may not, their time, and I won't say that they were bad people. I will say that their time in my life had expired and I was attempting to hold them in there, right? And I don't know about you, but if you've ever done that, if you think about reason, season, and lifetime, and you know that you don't know if it's a reason or a season or a lifetime until it's over, but when the season has ended and you still attempt to hold on to it, it's like attempting to hold on to barbed wire. You can hold on, you can pull, you can stay connected, but it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. So learn to let go in your shifting season. When you are shifting from where you're at to where you need to be, learn to let go of pieces, people, places, and things that no longer serve you. So when I was at the place where I knew I needed to let go, I didn't know how to let go. And because I was holding on for too long, right? And I'm not just, look, this relates to my marriage, this relates to friendships, this relates to jobs, this relates to any of the things I've ever experienced where I've held on too long. I see you. Excuse me, Abigail. Abigail said, yes, indeed. Where I stayed too long, I ended up hurt. Did that happen to any of you? The times that when you stayed too long past the season, past the reason, you were trying to make a reason or a season, a lifetime, and you stayed too long. Hey, Jamie, how you doing? And then you're staying too long, you stalled your shift. Come on now. And staying too long, you stall your shift. And for those of you who've been hanging around long enough, you know that I tend to use the manual transmission as a shift analogy all the time. And if you stall your shift while you are manually shifting your gears, you can mess some stuff up. And so when I knew I was messing things up in my life by stalling my shift, right? By stalling my shift, I had to turn it over. I said, okay, God, if these ain't supposed to be my people, send your people. You know what God did? He sent people. He sent people. And let me tell you this. Yes, Tiffany, I see you staying too long. You stalled your shift. That's a word, a whole word, right? When he sent his people, because I had been so hurt before. Come on now, y'all got to follow me because I'm talking about shifting into your next season. You're shifting from singlehood. You're shifting from hurt. You're shifting from pain. You're shifting from wherever you're at. And shifting, right? I was shifting in that season. I asked God, I said, yo, if this ain't the thing you want me to have, send your people. He sent his people. And guess what I did, y'all? I was attempting to stall the shift. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it. Can you do it? I'm not going to be able to do it. Right? In trying to protect my heart, right? I see you, Tiffany. She said, I'm literally in this season right now. And trying to protect my heart, I almost shut the door to the answered prayer, right? I almost shut the door to the answered prayer. And so in this season, right? In this season of shifting from the moment that happened, the moment that I decided that it was time to leave my marriage, and that too was a God, if I'm not supposed to be in this, make it obvious. So I want to go on because the super religious people are going to come in and go tell me how divorce is not of God and how I'm promoting evil and I'm doing the work of the enemy and blah, blah, blah. You can say what you want, but I know my God and I know the conversations we had. And I know when I asked him, if I'm not supposed to be in this, make it plain. If this is supposed to end, and you know what? He sure put a period where I was trying to put a comma. He sure put a period where I was trying to put a comma because he made it where he knew I wasn't going back. But here's the thing. Before you ask those types of questions, anybody ever been there? You ever got to remove something or somebody, if it's not for you, he start removing things and you be like, for real? Got them? Her, him? That job? And then you forget that you prayed for it, so you try to hold on to it. Anyway, that was my story. That was my story. But I tell you what had happened, because even as I asked, Johnny said, amen, sis. Amen. Yes, I have. And he did. Hallelujah. I'm 54 years old, married 30 years, recently divorced. Okay, Danetta, that's me. Well, I can't keep saying recently divorced because it's been 4 years. I'm 54. Yes, we got the look. Same story, right? Melissa said, yes, he will make it unbearable. Absolutely. He will make it unbearable. And then we'll sit in it, right? And then we'll forget that was the thing that we prayed for, or we'll say, God, not like that. And so because I attempted to do it with that situation as well, I was being disobedient in two ways. One, when I said, hey, send your people, I tried to hold on to the old person, and then I was side-eyeing the new people. You ever do that? I was side-eyeing the new people like, and questioning it. I was going, this feels too good to be true. God, this is scary. This is scary. I was afraid. You know why I was afraid? Because my heart had been so hurt. And so hurt feelings make it hard to shift. Hurt feelings make it hard to move. That pain will paralyze you if you let it. But I knew I had to lean into the shift because I wanted something different. I needed something different. I absolutely had to have something different because I was dying in the stall. Come on now. I was dying in the stall. So Abigail, 60 years young, was married 21, been divorced 20 years. Wow. Okay. So that was going to be my story. I mean, it may still be my story, but as I talk about the shift, right? Greg's G said, I went to a divorce care group in my church that really helped. It made the journey easier and we all helped each other. Absolutely. There's so much power in community, right? There's so much power in community that when you allow yourself to get in the space of places where people can hold space for you and help you in a journey, it's going to help you navigate those shifts. So wait, I've had 24 flat tires in the last 2 years. Jeez. Danette, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, because these shifts, right? So with that, right? I almost, out of fear, out of hurt, out of saying to God, I'm through with people. I was done with people. I was done with friendships. I was done with relationships. I was just going to get out here. I was going to serve the people, right? I was going to, because I knew that I have a gift when I show up and when I speak. I know how God uses me. right? I know how God uses me when I show up, when I speak, but I had decided I was done with people. But I recognize that in a shift, you have to be willing to let go of fear, right? Maybe not let go of fear, because fear sometimes has a hold of us. Am I right? Fear will sometimes grab you by the throat and be like, say something. So instead of letting go of the fear, I would say it was more reasonable or more descriptive to say leaned into the fear. Each shift is going to require that you opt into being courageous. Courageous doesn't mean you lack the fear. Courageous means that you're willing to lean into that thing and do it afraid. So, with that being said, right? With that being said, navigating that space over the last 3 years, I've been really good at protecting my space and being very intentional about who I allow in my inner circle. Come on now. Anybody else protecting their inner circle? So Danetta said, "You don't look your age. You look great." Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I'm telling you, healing is a hell of a drug. Healing is a hell of a drug. So protecting that space, and I've protected my space so well, and I've been so intentional about protecting my space, right, Ramel? I've been so intentional about protecting my space that I am good. Let me tell you, I I am so content. I am so content with how my life is. I'm content with my experience, with the people around me, with my family, with my loved ones. I'm content with my space. If I don't have to go outside, I go outside 3 times a week. Most of those are to the grocery store, right? But I've been so protective of my space. But recently, y'all, recently, I got my butt out on them dating apps trying to be grown, just to, be entertained for a minute, and then messed around and met somebody. Don't get all in a frenzy, y'all. But I'm using this for demonstration purposes, right? I've met somebody, and this meeting of somebody has the potential to go somewhere. Now it's still brand spanking new, right? But there's a potential. And because of that potential of it going somewhere, there are new avenues and new thoughts that I have to navigate. But Nita Sanchez said, which app? Girl, it was Match.com. And it's a funny story, right? So April Franks is a coach. She's an amazing coach. I don't know if she refers to herself as coach, but she's a content creator. She's on TikTok. I've been following her for years. And she had a post, or not just a post, her whole story blew up where she met this man on Match.com. And 30 days later, they decided they were going to get married. And at that point, I had just been playing on most of the other apps. And I was like, let me try Match. Match was the only one I hadn't tried. And so I met a man on Match.com, y'all. I met a man. And it has some potential, right? Yes, Melissa. She said, OMG, April got you on there. Absolutely. I'm happy for her though. Yes, me too. Like she moved from Houston all the way to wherever this man lived. They done built their whole life together. They get married. It looks amazing. I obviously wasn't looking for anything like that because I'm very, 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 very happy with my situation. I'm happy being single. Obviously I've never been this single this long since I've been an adult, because basically my marriage was my first serious relationship. At 21, I met this man, graduated college, met this man, got married at 25, and then was married to him or with him until I was 50. And so navigating the space of being a single girl who I could leave, I could give or take dating. I don't have to be out there in the streets. I'm just like, okay, I don't mind being entertained a little bit, but I really can entertain myself at home and be very happy with it and with the circle that I have and the life that I have. But here's what happens, right? When you start asking for different things from God, right? When you start saying things like, okay, God, if it's meant for me, send somebody, and then you start sending people, Even when you're comfortable, right? Again, like I had to lean into that fear and that uncomfortableness before. I'm in a space of shifting potentially from singlehood. Now, again, I don't know what this is going to be. It may end up being nothing. But what it's done is it's caused me to have to consider some things and to think about the process of shifting from happily single, right? So for the men who jump on my TikToks, the men who jump on my Instagram and my, I don't get it so much on Facebook because I think I have too many friends on Facebook who would beat them up. But the people, the men, mostly men who jump on and want to tell me that I'm too old, that I'm washed up, that I'm gonna die alone to get a dog. Oh, they love to tell me to get a dog. And I'm like, what kind do you think I should get? Like, I've considered getting a puppy. Like, it does not offend me because I am so happy here, right? I'm so happy here. But for the first time in a long time, I've had to contend with the thought of maybe it's time to consider what needs to happen to shift from single to a potential relationship. Yes, child. Melissa said, not get a dog. Yes, the what's his name? The Kevin Samuelites. They like to tell you to get a dog and die. Not just get a dog and die. That's what they say. So Danetta said, I'm happy single, glad to take a breath, not sure if I feel like dating. And so that's where I was. Danetta said, met him in 19, divorced at 54, basically my first and only real relationship. Not sure how to date. Okay, so that's where I was, right? That's where I was. Fortunately, I have people around me who encourage me to get outside and do, you know, quote unquote market research. And market research just looks like, you know, going out on a date or even testing out the apps to see what it is that you like and what you don't like. To really start to introduce yourself to this new version of yourself, because I always talk about healing and happiness and how I've done healing work, right? We're always in the process of healing. If you think that you are ever 100% healed, that's your first mistake. We're in a process of healing, right? So as I'm healing, I'm introducing myself to new versions of myself. And I've introduced myself to the version of myself who is single. And I am very happily single. When I tell you I love this stage of my life. I love this stage of my life. And when I am on you know, these dating apps and these men are like, what are you looking for? The first thing I say is enhancement. I'm talking to you, Danetta. When you say you don't know how to date, what can you bring to my life that enhances my life? I'm not looking for any drama. I'm not looking for no strife. I'm not looking for no headache. I'm not looking for no struggle love. I'm not looking for anything that does not enhance my life. You are not competing with what you think you're competing with. I had a man say to me, oh, you were married for almost 30 years. How can a man compete with that? He was sincere. He really meant that question. He was curious. I had to tell him, bruh, that's not what you're competing with. As a matter of fact, that's easy to compete with. That's easy. That's easy. I settled there. I'm not settling in my singlehood. You are competing with my peace. You are competing with my happiness. You are competing with my joy. You are competing with me. Can you treat me better than I treat me? And I treat myself real good. Before the bar was kind of low. Can you treat me better than I treat me? I wasn't treating myself that well. But can you treat me better than I treat me? When I'm in a space where I'm treating myself the best I've ever treated myself, if you cannot enhance my life like that, you can kick rocks. You can kick rocks. So yeah, most of them, they're not competing with what they think they're competing with. And I had resigned myself to be real comfortable and real happy single. And I'm still in that place, right? I could still, you know, what happens or what doesn't happen. I had one man ask me if I wanted to get married. So he asked me if I wanted to get married. And this was the last conversation we had because I didn't like the way I didn't like what he had to say. And I think I posted about it. But he asked if I'd like to get married. And I was like, not really, but I'm open to it. Like, it's not anything that's on my list of things to do. I've not put it on my get married in a year. Oh, Benita said that's a scary word, sis. Marriage. It is terrifying, right? For a variety of different reasons, right? And let me get to that. It's terrifying for a variety of different reasons. But he asked, because I'm not in a space where I'm like, I want to get married. But I told him I'm open to it, right? Because when I said to God that I want to be in your will, like, what is it you have for me? He may have the best thing since sliced bread. The man that he's been molding and developing for me, he may pop him up at my door as a UPS man. And I might be like, I said I wasn't going to get married, so I'm going to stick to it. So no, do I desire? Is it on my mood, my vision board for the next 3, 4, 5 years? I was talking to somebody else and I was like, I was thinking maybe 5 years, maybe 5 years from now. If I was thinking about getting married, they were like, oh, you really want to be old. But I have no problem. I have no problem being an elderly bride, right? A senior bride, as you will. But he said to me, well, don't you think that's too late if I decided to wait a few years? And I said no, because I know my God is a redeemer of time, so there's no such thing as too late. I can meet somebody today and spend the best 40 years of my life with them. Right? So I don't have to push it. I don't have to rush it. But the way he came at the answer, I was like, sir, we don't have to talk anymore. So again, when you're in a place of Melissa said, not a senior bride, honey. Yes, ma'am, a senior bride. Listen, I don't mind being single for a long time. I don't mind. So God's will is for us to be under his covenant when it comes to man and woman or any relationship, right? And I do that with friendships as well. Johnny said, that's Satan folks talking crazy. Pets are great to have, but remember, dogs are pack animals. Okay, I don't understand all of that. But yeah, so I have no problem, right? But again, I'm open. If God sends me the man of my life, the person that he is molded and prepared for me, then now I have to have different considerations. So I can't be stuck in this place of comfort. Come on now, because this singlehood for me is a place of comfort. It's a place of joy. It's a place of peace. It's a place of expectation. It's a place of I understand. I know what to expect when I wake up in the morning. There's no, what's these things called? Wild cards in my life, right? And so I'm really loving and embracing that space. But what does it look like? What does it look like to prepare to potentially shift from this place into a new unknown? Right? So Kingdom Identity for Teens says place of wholeness. LaDonna said, me too. The point is God sent. Yes. It's never too late for the right one. Absolutely. 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 So what does it look like to shift? Carla said, listen, all of that. And Melissa said, a good man will leave you better off than when he found you. Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. Melissa also said, men really hate women being okay single. Why does it bother them so? Ooh, I've done many a video about my theory on why it bothers so many single men, or why it bothers so many men, because not all of them are single. When single women are happy, I think a lot of it has to do with the threat that our happiness gives for them, because when you are happy and healed, you don't put up with a lot of the bullshit that you will when you are unhappy and unhealed. And when I talked about those people who depend on you to be unhealed and unhappy, a lot of them are predatory men, come on now, who are looking to be in relationship with women who have it together, but they target. Come on now. Which is why it's imperative to do the work. So, shifting, right? Shifting into single, shifting from single into whatever level of relationship is. Y'all may see a status in 4 weeks that Rhonda's in a relationship. But y'all may not see nothing. I may pop up married. Who knows? Y'all might not know, but I know there's some thoughts that I've had to have as I've contended with. What does it look like to prepare myself to shift into that space? So here's what I've come up with. Oh yeah, Kingdom Identity said people don't want us to be whole; they love us broken. Here's what I've contended with. What it takes to shift from happily single to potentially in a relationship, and shifting from a place that you are comfortable, that you are happy, that you are content. And this is only me shifting if it proves to be God ordained. If it proves to be like, okay, God, you doing your big one with this. If y'all see me in a relationship, just know that me and God, we done had it out. We done had a whole discussion about it, and he has said, my daughter, this is the one. I done showed you, I done told you, look, check the signs, there's confirmation, right? So just know that when that happens, but there are things I have to contend with. And one of the things I had to contend with recently that made me go, ooh, I need to talk to the people about this. I need to talk to the people about this. And another thing, if you don't understand what your attachment style is, hop on Beyonce's Good Internet and find you an attachment style assessment and inventory and take it and learn what your attachment style is so that you know how you show up in relationship. And here's the thing that I've been saying about healing. I can say that I have been in my healing process and I've healed enough to be in a relationship, but I don't really know until I get in a relationship and I deal with the triggers that relationships will inevitably cause, and I look at how I respond to them. That's the true your attachment style. Erica said attachment style. So just look up, Erica, Google attachment style inventory. There's a great book called Attached by, oh my gosh, Amir somebody. That's really worth the read. If you are in a place of wondering why your relationships may or may not work. So back to like me being in these spaces of navigating the things I have to contend with. And one of the things I have to contend with is that before my fear was, what if it doesn't work? And Erica, if you need, just send me a DM if you need a link or something. Just let me know if you need help finding one. Heather Drummond said, "Why are you preaching?" Okay, let's talk about it. One of the things I had to contend with as I'm navigating these spaces, right, is that when you are healing, you don't really know if you are truly healed in that space until you get into the arena and you have to practice. I made a video a while back and I said, you know, you don't learn the game by sitting on a bench. You have to get out in the ball field. You have to put some of these theories to practice, because right now my healing in that space is mostly theoretical. My peace is perfect. My peace is practical. My peace has been verified. I have peace in these places. But how do I show up in relationships? That's going to be different. The only way I'm going to know how that works is I have to allow myself to shift from happily single to in a space where I test out some of these theories. Now, again, mental health therapist, I'm a certified coach. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I've done the work with people for a really, really long time. And so I'll tell you some of the things that lead me to believe why I'm probably better at it than I think I am, but I also have some places to lean in. So one of the things that lets me know that I'm better at it than perhaps I was, because at the stage, right? And again, this may change depending on the stage. I lean into difficult dialogue. I lean into asking questions. I lean into filling in gaps. I lean into not allowing myself to create clever stories about why a call didn't go answered, or why I haven't heard from somebody, or what that thing was that they said, or why their eye looked like that when I asked that question. I lean in, I ask a question. And I asked the question, and a lot in the way of how Brene Brown, if you looked at her last Netflix special, right? And for the record, somebody once referred to me as like the Black Brene Brown. Let it, but I'm the only Rhonda Gipson-Willis, but I still took that as a compliment. But what she said, she was talking about vulnerability, and she was talking about when we engage in these conversations, particularly with our partner, and sometimes we have these inclinations to mind read and to make up stories in our head. And so one of the things that she would say when she was navigating a difficult conversation with her husband is, instead of saying, you know what you said, and when you said that, you knew what you said, and I saw the way that you looked at me, and how dare you do X, Y, and Z. She stepped back and she would say instead, the story I'm telling myself about X, Y, and Z, whatever just happened, the story that I'm telling myself about this is, now let's verify that. Is that what you intended? I remember I had a conversation with a friend, which is why this friend is no longer my friend. And I said, when you did, because the therapist in me, when you X, I felt Y. When you did X, Y, and Z, I felt dismissed. That felt very dismissive to me. And they said to me, I meant to be dismissive. I meant to be dismissive. And because I had decided the types of relationships that I wanted, I knew that that was not a friendship or a relationship for me. I knew that that was not a friendship or relationship for me, because I had decided what it was that I desired for myself. And one of those things was, I was not going to be in a relationship with people who dismissed me, who proudly and adamantly will tell me that they were being dismissive. Right? All right. So I have a question. When you say shift from single, does this mean I will start to date, or I'm dating, or I'm looking towards marriage soon? Girl, it means, Karnisha, it means all of the things, right? It means all shifting from single. So single is different, right? And so for me, I'm using single in the context of from being completely single to in relationship with somebody, right? Some people say you're single until you get married, but I'm just using it as context of shifting into a relationship. So if you say shifting from single into a relationship, into a situationship, into a marriage, into an arrangement, into whatever, what does it look like for you to go from the place where you hopefully, prayerfully have done the work? Because if you've not done the work, your shift is going to be tumultuous. It is not going to be a smooth shift. If you have not done the work, if you have not sat down and gotten to know yourself, if you have not allowed yourself to sit with your demons, if you have not sat with the ugliest part of yourself and given her a hug and said, girl, I love you, but you are fucking shit up, and now you got to go. If you've not done that, you need to stay single. You need to stay single. Now, do you have to be 100% healed? Again, I just said we're not necessarily 100% healed. Do you have to be in that space to navigate in a relationship? No, because I believe that there is some healing that has to take place in the context of relationship, but it has to be in the context of a safe relationship. A safe relationship. And if you don't know what safety looks like for you, that's one of the things you need to focus on while you're single. What does safety feel like for me? When does my nervous system rest? When does it relax? Right? How do I allow myself to open myself up to the possibilities of what may happen? And so for me, one of the things that I had to contend with, which was different than what I contended with earlier, right? When I first came out of my marriage, I was afraid that I would get into a relationship and it wouldn't work and I'd be hurt again. Now I'm afraid of what it looks like to get into a relationship and it working. What was the difference, do you think? What was the difference? The difference was, in one spot, I was not sure of myself. I wasn't comfortable, right? I wasn't comfortable. I hadn't done the work. I didn't feel like I was worthy of the good things that I desired, right? And so with that, I knew that there was an area of brokenness because of how I not only treated myself, but how I allowed other people to treat me. And let's keep it funky, y'all. When I'm talking about this, I'm not always talking about romantic relationships, right? And so when I was in that space, I did not trust myself. Hey, Jory. When I was in that space, I did not trust myself. I did not trust myself to pick the right people. I did not trust myself to protect myself. I did not trust myself to not allow myself to become the sacrificial lamb in relationships. And because of that, I feared shifting into new relationships. That includes friendships. Regina said, that's deep. Yeah, it's deep, right? It's deep. So now, 3 years later, having done the work in a place where I'm very comfortable, where I'm very happy, where I have done the work to protect myself, where I protect who it is that I am, who I've invested in, right? Because to do the work is to do an investment, to put an investment in yourself. You are investing in your healing. You are investing time. I invested time. I invested money. I invested space. I invested tears. I invested blood. I invested sweat. I invested faith. You invest so much in your healing that now a potential relationship, a potential friendship becomes a threat to that peace. And so shifting from single looks like trusting yourself of not what happens if it goes bad, because if it goes bad, I go back to single. I am happily single. I do single very well. I love my single life, right? So now that's fine and good if I'm in entertainment type relationships, right? I have a friend that calls them EPOs, entertainment purposes only. I'm not looking to get serious. I'm just kind of navigating this scene and checking out things. But as I contemplate the potential, right? Because there's a fella who's got some potential to shift me from single. And when I started to grapple with what is that thing? You ever get that, like that internal emotional itch? Like, it's something. I can't quite put my finger on it. Can't quite put my finger on it. Coming to the realization that the thing that I couldn't put my finger on is, what if it works? What if it's everything that I ever dreamed of, everything I ever desired? What if this shifts me from single? And now I can't go kicking and dragging. I can't go kicking and screaming. I can't go kicking and screaming. I can't resist it because I know too much. Before, I could go kicking and screaming because I didn't trust the process. I didn't trust God. I didn't trust myself. Right? Melissa said, what if it works? Melissa, did you go from Facebook to TikTok? Is this the same Melissa? I can't go kicking and screaming because I know too much. Right? It's worked out whenever I've trusted God in that season of the next. It's worked out. So now I can't be like, let me self-sabotage. She said, can't keep up with me. What if let me self-sab and so here's the thing about self-sabotage. Most of us don't realize that we're doing it. And so I had to get real with myself and make sure that I am intentional about not sabotaging something on a subconscious level that could be a thing because I am comfortably single. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Kernisha said, now I was married 30 years and have been in isolation. I do believe the Lord has me in hiding. I don't want the same man in a different body. Avoiding the same man in a different body requires that you, again, come face to face with not only your current self, but the version of you that chose that man. Because if we don't fix ourselves, if we don't address and pinpoint what that was, that chasm inside of us that needed to be filled with that, we will pick the same person over and over and over and over and over again. So Melissa said, do you think it's because you are naturally a wife? I don't. I don't think I was naturally a wife. I don't think I was growing up, I just didn't see myself getting married. And I got married young. And I think part of it was I got married before I truly knew myself. And I'll say the same for my ex-husband. We got together young. We were just like, whoa, like you're the best thing since sliced bread. And then when it started to be like, when it started not really working out, we didn't know how to deal with it not working out in our immaturity, in our emotional immaturity, right? And in the places that we had not developed and done the healing work. Yeah, so wait, I had a question over here. Melissa said, how are your daughters adjusting to all of this? Well, actually, one of them's over here on TikTok. I don't think there's anything for them to adjust to, right? And by all of this, if you mean like their mom potentially dating, I think, well, they've said they want their parents to be happy. They want their parents to be happy, and what they've all said to me in one way or the other, or one time or the other, is that we are both happier apart than we were together. And that's important to me, right? Now, all of our daughters are grown. Our youngest is 21, our oldest is 30. And they were almost grown. The youngest was 17 when we separated. And I think when they were younger, we probably wouldn't have made the decision how we made it. It probably would have looked a little different. But because they were so much older and because they had experienced the inside of that, where we had normalized a lot of settling. We both settled for people that weren't the best people for us. And when I say weren't the best people for us, I just mean that we did not fit. Like when you think of round peg, square hole, like we are literally hodgepodging together this relationship that looked great on paper. It looked great on the outside, but on the inside, there was no like, when you see people who really are actually in love with each other, and then you see people who are just kind of complacent with their relationship, you get it. And so I think for my girls, it was just a matter of they just want their parents to be happy. I don't think it was the easiest thing for them because it's not an easy transition when your whole life changes, right? Because everybody's life changed. All they had known all their lives were their parents had been together. But I can't speak for them I can't speak for them on that. But yeah, so it's oh, my live was about to end. Whoops. Oh, like TikTok was like I hadn't done something, so they want to move it. So yeah, so I think that a lot of that had to do with it. And so what do they look for me dating someone? I think they just want their mom to be happy. I think they just want their mom to be happy. And their dad. So Melissa, because you haven't been married so long, that's just what you give off, not a girlfriend vibe. Oh, okay. Wow, for them to say that means it should have happened a long time ago. Absolutely. Like they knew. I did a TikTok a while back where I was like, the kids know. The kids probably knew before we knew. They were like, geez. And it wasn't like there was a lot of fussing and fighting and cussing and all of that. It's just we were mismatched. We were mismatched. And so as I look at leaning into what a potential new relationship might look like for me, it's allowing myself to get adjusted to things that I had closed myself off to for years. Right, Erica? Erica said they sure do know. I closed myself off to, and I will admit part of how my marriage ended up the way that it did, right? And I would say for both of us was that when it started not working early on, instead of leaning in and fixing it, you know what we did? We built walls. We assumed that we knew each other better than we know each other. And so for me, going into any type of new relationship, it looks like making sure that I'm more of an expert on me than I profess to be of another person. That I allow myself, right, as you are shifting from single, allow yourself to stay curious, allow yourself to ask questions, allow yourself to not assume that somebody's behavior means something that it may or may not mean. Because oftentimes we were clever story ourselves into breakups. We will clever story ourselves into heartache. We will create these narratives that are nowhere near the narrative of what the thing is. And sometimes it's because we've gotten scared. Sometimes it's because we haven't done the work on ourselves. Like I said, if you don't know your attachment style, learn your attachment style. Learn your attachment style. How do you attach? Now, prior, I had my attachment style. It varied, right? So I had a very disorganized attachment style. There's sometimes I could be anxiously attached, and I'll say that when I was through my going through my significant, and when I don't want to mince words when I say this, I was significantly depressed and suffering in silence, like I was drowning in plain sight. Most people had no idea, absolutely no idea. Um, my attachment style was more anxious because I was very anxious at the same time. And so that anxiousness, it showed up in relationships in ways that looked clingy. I remember one of my best friends once, when I was just kind of sharing kind of where I was at, she was like, you are like really clingy. And I was like, me? Hyper independent me who never ask anybody for anything. And the time that I do ask somebody is clingy. But I recognize is because I always shown up as the hyper independent person, and I had never allowed myself to lean on people in that way. And then when I did, it was over the top. And so balancing out, right? Balancing out my attachment style and my attachment and mastering detaching. Right now, I have a healthy detachment. Um, and I say this with a caveat, right? Because I recognize that um, part of having a healthy detachment means that as you lean into um, what it looks like to move from where you're at into whatever the next stage is, that sometimes it means you have to detach from things that are very healthy, things that you love, things that you're comfortable with, things that help bring you peace. And I don't mean detach as in, throw it all away, but sometimes that means that you have to contend with the thought of things changing. And I am very, 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 very comfortable with how things are and the people in my life and all the things. So for somebody, again, to reiterate, for somebody to come into my life and to change that, oh, you have got to be an enhancer. And if I am a master of detachment, that means that I allow relationships, people, places, and things to flow. So right now, I have to remind myself that if I am looking to stretch in these areas that perhaps God is putting me or taking me through, that means that sometimes you have to give up things that you really, really, really like, enjoy, love, are comfortable with. Now, with that being said, allowing yourself to detach from the outcome of a situation, of a potential relationship, is a freedom that I pray for you all. What that means is you can go into a situation without either um, awfulizing it, right? Without either you have a first date and already you've decided the 8, the 10, the 15 ways that this person might hurt you. and so you cut it off at the pass, or going into a relationship or going into a situation and then seeing yourself married and with 3 kids and doing all the things that will dictate how you move in that space of shifting. Does that make sense? When you get in the space of shifting, if you are shifting with expectations, you change the way you shift. There's this phenomenon. Oh, gee, I didn't mean to talk about this, so I hope I don't misspeak on it. But I believe it's called the Hawthorne effect. I learned about it in psychology school. I'm gonna start referring to college and psychology school. I learned about it in psychology school. Hawthorne effect, that basically said that when they would go to do research on people, that one of the things that they have to account for is that people act different when they're being observed, right? And so people also show up and act differently when they have an expectation. You are going to shift different when you have an expectation, but when you disconnect, allow yourself to disconnect from the outcome, you also allow yourself to flow with where you're at right now. Now, I remember I was talking with a fella, right? I've talked to a couple of, but I was talking to a fella, and there were so many things that, he was projecting in the future of like, oh my gosh, we could end up being this. Oops, it paused. We can end up being this can end up happening and this and that. And I said, how about we just enjoy each other's company right now for what it is? Let's just enjoy each other's company. And in enjoying each other's company, that means that you allow yourself to flow, right? My words for the last 3 years have been ease, flow, and alignment. If there is no ease, if there's no flow, if there's no alignment, I'm not shifting. So as you are looking to shift from single, right? And some of you need to stay stalled in single. Y'all need to stay parked in single. I'll say that. You need to stay parked in single a little longer so that you can work on fixing your engine. Come on now, because you're trying to move before the engine is put together. You need to stay parked. But as you're looking to shift, you also have to reckon with what are you shifting into and how are you moving. Now, for those of you, again, who've been around, and I told the story of my first car. I bought the car, I didn't know how to drive it. It was a manual transmission. And the first time I drove it, it was herky-jerky because I didn't know how to shift properly. I didn't know how to smooth the clutch. I didn't know how to navigate that, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got to do the gas and the clutch at the same time. And then you had to I didn't know how to do all of that. And so because I didn't, the shifts were herky-jerky. Some of your shifts are looking like that because you've not mastered the shift. You've not done the work. You've not learned. You've not applied the blueprint. You've not done the healing work. And so regardless of what shift you're making or you're taking, make sure that you've done the work. As I shift from single potentially, right? As I potentially shift from single, what I have is a blueprint of when I shifted from my marriage into singlehood. The work that I did, I can now apply that blueprint. I have a framework, right? I have introspection. I have receipts. I have work that I've done that allows me to check myself before I wreck myself, because now I know myself better than I ever have. If you're looking for a blueprint, if you're looking for ways to get through that, I have a online course that if you DM me, PM me, or however you get a hold of me, I can send it to you. Send a link to it. It's a paid course. But if you sit and you do the work, right? If you do the work, it's the work that I did to lean into my healing. It's the work that I did to lean into what I need to do in order to be in a space of peace. There are some people who have left marriages 5, 6, 10 years ago, and they're still struggling because they never did the work to heal. I'm here to tell you that just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean that it's still not available to you. but you're going to have to lean into it. You're going to have to lean into it. And as you shift from season to season to season, you're able to take the framework with you. The it's a parallel process, right? As I am teaching others, say, Jamila, can you send me a personal message in TikTok, Jamila, and I'll send you the link. If not, you can look at the link in my bio. I'm pretty sure there's a link to it there. But let me screenshot you. I don't know how to make this screenshot. Yeah, so Jamila, send a DM. But yeah, so if you've not done the work, right, and in this program, I talk about choosing yourself, choose your healing, choose forgiveness, choosing peace over principle, because that's what got some of y'all messed up. You're choosing principle when you should be choosing your peace. And so it's a video online program, 6 modules, with workbooks that I think could help if you feel like you're stuck in park. If you feel like you're stuck in park, but if you're looking to shift, particularly from single, there's some things that you have to contemplate. Yeah, contemplate. And for me, it was not what happens if things go wrong, but what happens if things go right. What happens if things go right? Am I willing to lean into that? And am I willing to do it without potentially sabotaging myself? Because my goal is not to sabotage myself. My goal is to stay so self-aware that anytime anything that comes to me that feels like a rub, that I back up and I go, okay, where is that coming from? Where inside of me is that coming from? What's the work that I need to do? What do I need to check? Right? So I pray the same thing for you all. I didn't plan on talking this long on this live. So I'm going to go ahead and go now. And Jamila, let me write your name down so that I can make sure I send you that link. Okay? J-A-M-A. I don't have my glasses on. L-L-A. All right. I'll send you the link. I'm pretty sure it's in my bio too. But if anybody else wants it, PM me, DM me. Y'all know how to find me. There's links in my bio. All right. I've enjoyed talking to you all. So with that, I'll say goodbye, Facebook. And if you have comments that I've not responded to, I'll go back and respond to later. And YouTube, I'll see y'all on the other side in that.